Coming up, I'm going to tell you how to deal with those toxic coworkers, and then what job quitters are looking for now, a bizarre blockbuster NFL quarterback contract, and I'm going to coach you up. Let's go. Helping you win at work and life by coaching you to make more money and experience more meaning in your work. I'm Ken. Let's go. All right, so toxic coworkers. This topic just keeps coming up well, you know what? Coming up like the throw up. You know, it's like I put out the old Q&A I believe it's Tuesday or Wednesday on Instagram, and I just tell people over there on the gram, hey, ask me anything, right? And so people do. And, you know, they'll ask me a variety of things, you know, from, you know, sports questions to pop culture to Coke or Pepsi. I get the occasional silly question. But the question that seems to pop up the most is a very specific question to their situation, but it's all around how do I deal with a difficult coworker, toxic coworker. And we've talked on this show recently. I taught on how to deal with a toxic leader. So today I'm going to give you what I believe is a very practical 3-step process to consider when you're dealing with a toxic coworker. Because here's the overarching thought here that I want you to embrace. My whole purpose for doing this show is to help people do what they were created to do, right? Step into their sweet spot and live and work the dream, right? But the reality is you could be absolutely in your sweet spot, doing work that you were absolutely created to do. But if you were in a horrible culture, whether it be a smaller team culture or a greater company culture that's just horrible and toxic, let me just tell you something. You'll still be miserable. Doing the thing that you were created to do in the wrong place will absolutely burn you out. It has nothing to do with the work, it has everything to do with the environment. And the answer isn't, and I understand this, and I want to be practical. I understand the answer always isn't as simple as, well, just leave. I understand that that's not always an easily made decision, or rather, it's not always simple to execute on. It is possible, but it takes time. Got to find something to leave too. So I don't ever want to be overly simplistic and just dismiss, well, you know, if you're dealing with a difficult worker, if you do this, your kid doesn't work, you just leave immediately. No, I understand that. So I want to encourage you. And I believe these 3 steps will allow you to have the best opportunity to overcome the difficult or toxic teammate. Here we go. Number 1, you have to try to have empathy for them. In other words, you have to give the effort to try to understand what's going on with them below the surface. One way I said it on a social media post in this particular topic was, there is pain inside of them that is causing the problems that you experience. You know, another way of saying it, and I've heard this a million times, it's a beautiful way of saying it, hurting people hurt people. Now, let's just pause for a moment and get real. If these people are hurting you, it is very, very difficult to step back from that situation and go, okay, they are hurting me with their words, with their actions. And yet, the reason they are hurting me is because they are hurting. And that is really difficult to do. Because it's the equivalent of them, you know, shooting you with a Nerf gun or one of those little things that stings. It's like, hey, pop, 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 and it's hurt, and it stings. It's like, ah! And in the moment when that's happening to you, all you're thinking about doing is covering up, protecting yourself, defending yourself. That's very normal. But you have to, after the wound and the pain is inflicted, you have to be able to, while you're recovering and dealing with the pain, you also have to go, okay, is this deeply personal? Is this very intentional? Or is this a result of pain? Now, I can tell you this, whether it is unintentional or intentional, it's still it's still about pain. So it doesn't excuse their behavior. But many times we can figure out that this is not actually intentional. Remember, pain is at the source of intentional poor actions or bad actions or toxic behavior, just as it is at the source of unintentional toxic behavior. But the reality is that if we can determine and understand what the pain is below the surface that's creating the problem, now we have ourselves some perspective by which we can channel. Let's keep moving. I'll come back to that. Number 2, if that doesn't work, if you can't dig into the pain and find out what's going on and treat them with some empathy and maybe some compassion, now you got to go, okay, I've tried the empathy, compassion part. I understand what's going on, and I've given them grace. Maybe I give them mercy, and I try to win their heart over. If that doesn't work, it's not your job to be their counselor. You're their coworker. So now you got to remove yourself. Don't engage. Don't empower their behavior by engaging in the behavior. Well, Ken, that's easier said than done. Yeah, I understand. But the reality is they come over and they start talking negative to you. They come over and start telling you what to do, and it's not their job to tell you what to do. I'm telling you, folks, there's honor in going, oh, I got to take this call, and there's no call there. Well, you say you're lying. I think it's acting. Remove yourself from the situation. I don't care. You're not breaking any ethical, moral laws of the universe. Get out of there. Come up with an excuse. Hey, I got to go over here. Well, you didn't say you had a meeting. If you don't like my fake phone call, all right, I'll give you the completely guilt-free. Hey, I got to go take care of something. Well, at which point you can come up with anything to take care of. Hey, I got to go to the bathroom. Well, Ken, that's a little awkward. Yeah, but that'll shut this stuff down. Get out. Remove yourself from the situation. Avoid them. In other words, you're creating boundaries to guard yourself from their destructive behavior. And then third, and this is for you people who like confrontation and it doesn't freak you out. And I know that's very few of you, but I got to address the Ken Colemans of the world because this is where I go. I always want to start with number 1. I want to try to understand what's going on, try to have some empathy and compassion. And if that doesn't work, I'm going straight to confronting them, baby. This is where you go, hey, you're over here telling me what to do. You realize you're not my leader, right? Hey, listen, I appreciate this suggestion, but I'm doing exactly how our leader says I need to do it. Or, hey, can I tell you something? I actually like working here. I value this place. And when you're gossiping, it brings me down. Could you not do that around me? That's a form of confrontation. Or look at him and go, hey, I know you're hurting. I have tried to help you. I've tried to understand you. I've tried to pour into you. I've tried compassion. It's not working. I need you to act like I don't exist. Only mandatory communication. And spare me the pouting. Spare me the poisonous looks. Whatever you got to do, folks. Now, why? Why am I teaching on this? Because here's the reality. There are times when we can't change our environment right away, but we've got to be able to go into work and do our job. So, hey, you'll lose your ever-loving mind if you don't put some boundaries in place and push these problem people away from you. Coming up next, what people are searching for as they quit. So you just landed the new job. Congratulations. You've made it past the interviews and now it's time to onboard with excellence. That's why I created How to Stand Out at Your New Job. This free checklist will help you succeed from day one and may even help you get promoted. These practical steps set you up to add value, help your team win, exceed your leader's expectations, and ultimately set you up for a successful transition. To get started, just go to kencoleman.com/new. All right, couple things I want you all to do for me real quick. For those of you who are thinking about something new, we're about ready to break this down. What are people that are quitting jobs looking for? We're going to break it down in detail. For those of you that are looking, this information is going to be very relevant, but I'm also telling you we have a lot of people that are taking my advice and using the free service of ZipRecruiter. Because here's the deal. You may be one job change away from completely changing your path, your perspective, and your potential. And sometimes a fresh start is the best thing we can do. And if that's you, ZipRecruiter.com/Ken is the site for you. Why do I endorse and promote ZipRecruiter? Well, they're a world-class service that allows you to live your life and you're not submitting 50 to 100 resumes a day. One profile in 5 minutes or less, and your resume is uploaded, and they start pitching you. They are recruiting on your behalf while you're living your life, going to soccer games, football games, doing your work. They're working for you. Companies pay them so you don't pay them a nickel. Companies pay them for access to people like you. And I know my audience is serious, and I know my audience is clear, and I know my audience is hungry, and so they love you. It's free to you. They send you jobs directly because they say the company wants to interview you. Here you go. We're contacting you and connecting you directly to the company. Takes all the yuck and suck out of the job search. ZipRecruiter.com/Ken. ZipRecruiter.com/Ken. Okay. Also, really quick, to our live audience on YouTube, it's a special hearty group of characters. Give us a thumbs up. You're watching for free. The least you could do is click on the thumbs up, for heaven's sakes. I'm like a parrot. That's your version of giving me a cracker and patting me on the head as I squawk along to your enjoyment. Give me a thumbs up. Let's go. Those of you that are hardcore and already gave a thumbs up, guilt everybody watching. And let's go get those thumbs up. That helps us grow. And we are growing, by the way. Thank you so very much. Okay, so McKinsey & Company, very respected consulting company in the business space and do a lot of research, got a new study out. And I'm just going to roll through this very quickly because this is very relevant to those of you who are always having an eye on moving up. And moving up comes down to two decisions as it relates to destination, right? So if we talk about moving up, climbing up the ladder, climbing on the next rung of the ladder, you're going to do that in two ways. One, internally, two, externally, okay? We get that. And so if you're very serious about growing, and you should be, about progressing, you've got to always have your eye, while you're focused on one eye is on the now, you must always have an eye on the next. And this is fascinating stuff. Now, I also know that I've got a bunch of leaders. Some of you are in leadership and you watch this show and you're about, well, while you're in a leadership position, you're looking at attracting and retaining people. This is vitally important stuff. So here we go. Now, we all know the current environment, but I'm going to remind us to give us context. Right now, and we saw at the end of May, the latest numbers were we had about 11.3 million jobs available. That's stunning. All right, almost twice the amount of people are unemployed. And companies are still hiring. They're still paying more. So this quitting rate continues to be very high. You've heard me call it the Great Resignation. It's happening. It's not slowing down. Okay. The voluntary quit rate is 25% higher today than it was pre-pandemic. Staggering number. Now, employers who are being left behind are continuing to rely on the traditional levers, or let's call it bait, to attract talent. Those are compensation, and we're seeing a lot of people leave for that. They're going, okay, I could get a 14, 15, 20% bump. I'm leaving just for a bigger paycheck. But we're also seeing in the data a lot of people regretting that because the high of the paycheck and the promotion wears off if you're not in a healthy culture or you're not doing work that you love. That's why we exist. I'm just telling you, the paycheck wears off. Now, compensation, titles, advancement opportunities, these are always the carrots. And those are still important for what McKinsey's calling from this study, workers that they call traditionalists. So it's a large group that go, you know what, that's all I'm looking for. I'll gut it out. If I don't love the job, I don't care, as long as I got a good check, good title, and a good chance to get promoted. And unfortunately, that's what I'm fighting. Settling for okay work. All right, now, there's a new pool of workers that has created this gap between 11.3 million jobs available and let's call it 8.4 million people unemployed. There's a gap. Why? Well, because of these non-traditional, they're not looking for that type of stuff. They're looking for flexibility. Okay? They're looking for remote opportunities. They want to start their own business. And so McKinsey in this report has grouped these non-traditional workers into 3 categories. This is interesting. Do you fall in any of these categories? And leaders, listen to me. You need to be aware as you're trying to compete for talent and attract talent. And leaders, if you're not aware of this, you're going to lose the race for good talent. Here are the 3 groups. These are reshufflers. These are employees who are quitting and going to different employers in different industries. So they're switching industries altogether. Then there's the reinventors. These are employees leaving traditional employment to go to non-traditional work. That's the temporary gig, the part-time role, or starting their own business. And then the third group are the reassessors. These people are not quitting for other jobs, but because life has changed for them. Could be a mom that needs to go home. Daycare's not working out. Maybe there's some medical issues going on, a whole host of issues that would have a person go, you know what, for this season of my life, I can't be working the traditional job. Okay. Now, of the employees who quit without a new job in hand, meaning they didn't quit to a job, okay, so there's a lot of these reinventors, 47% of those chose to return to the workforce. So that tells me, again, either it was not a good financial move, they thought it would work out and it didn't, or they took care of the issue at hand and then they want to get back to work. And so that's pretty fascinating stuff. Now, we've got a graphic I want to put up on the screen really quick. And I don't have time to break down this whole article. This study is huge, but look at that right there. Top reasons for quitting your previous job. Now, this is from people who quit between April 2021 and April of 2022. And this is a sizable shift, okay? We've always seen lack of meaningful work and compensation towards the top. But look at the top reason right there, a lack of career development and advancement. I've said it on this show, Alex, before, and I was right. People don't want a better job, they want a better life. Then total compensation is second, and then closely in third is uncaring and uninspiring leaders. People leave leaders, not companies. Wow. Really interesting stuff. All right, next. Unbelievable story from the NFL world, and it's a leadership example. Kyler Murray, for those of you who aren't NFL fans, he's the quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals. And he won the Heisman at Oklahoma, so all you Sooner fans love you some Kyler Murray. Well, during the offseason, there was some contentious negotiations. Would the Cardinals sign him? He stopped following him on Instagram. There was a lot of drama and all this kind of stuff. And so it was just announced this week. You ready for this? The Cardinals signed him to a $230.5 million contract. $160 million guaranteed no matter what happens in his behavior or performance. $160 guaranteed the minute he signed it. That's $46.1 million average salary. That's not bad, Alex. Not bad at all. So those numbers is not what has caused a stir among NFL executives. The number that stood out in the contract and stood out to me was the number 4. Little clause in this contract that said Murray has to spend 4 hours per week in independent study during the regular season and playoffs. During that time, he must review material provided to him by the club in order to prepare for the club's next upcoming game. So now this is when he's not in the locker room or he's not in the training room, he's not in the film room. He has an additional 4 hours a week that he has to do homework. Now let me tell you why this is wild. Here's the takeaway. Talent is not enough, leaders. If you're spending that much money on somebody and you're mandating that they got to do 4 hours of homework, that's probably not a good deal. And number 2, they're covering their butts in case they fire him because they don't trust him. Did you know that just like a product, you have a personal brand? It's the image or impression others form about you based on your interactions. And whether we realize it or not, our personal brand impacts opportunities to grow in our careers. That's why our team created the Personal Brand Survey. It's free, and it will give you personal and professional feedback so you can own your strengths and uncover any blind spots holding you back. To get started, go to kencoleman.com/brand. Hi, my name's Ken. I'm a man of the people, by the people, for the people. And no, I've not turned into an injury lawyer. You know, you say for the people now, and that's been completely just perverted right into, oh, you're the guy I call if I get hit by a car. No, I'm the guy you call when you want the truth, you want perspective, you want coaching, you want encouragement, you want to be challenged to be who you were created to be. And you know what the result of that is? You're going to make more money, enough money, and you're going to experience tremendous meaning because you spend over 90,000 hours in your lifetime on average if you were an American worker. And if you're spending that kind of time at work, you take sleep, what's left over, you better be doing something that you're good at. You better be doing something you love. And you better be doing something that produces results that you actually give a crapola about. And that's why we're here. And this is a perfect story. I mean, this is fascinating to me. And I think it's happening, Alex, a lot more than we realize, even though this is in the headlines. What am I talking about? By the way, you notice that there's a trend going on here, Alex, that we keep reporting viral TikToks. So even adults are on the old talk now, and they're just sharing real stories, and it's going bananas. Here's another one. A man, an Ohio-based teacher, goes viral on TikTok after revealing that he was quitting his job as an early education teacher to make more money working at Walmart. Let's show you the TikTok, and then we'll break some stuff down. Here you go. So he's not talking, by the way. So he says, hey, I'm leaving teaching after 6 years, and I'm going to take a job at Walmart. The direct quote was, leaving teaching after 6 years to go be a manager at Walmart and make more not using my degree. That's what you saw there quickly in the caption. All right, now, he goes on in the comments that people are making. He goes on to reveal that in his county in Ohio, teachers make between $23,000 to $30,000 per year. He said his salary in his first year was $23,000, and his last salary in his 6th year of teaching was $43,000. He then goes on to say, I know a lot of people that were starting to retire in my district were making $75,000 to $80,000, but that was after 25 years. He says in the video that as a Walmart coach, he can make a starting salary of around $65,000 to $70,000, but even more as a Walmart manager. So this is really awesome because I have a lot of teachers who call this show. And they'll say things like, Ken, I'm burned out. And by the way, this is an epidemic. This is a real problem. You want to talk about an epidemic. It's the amount of people that are leaving the education field. And by the way, it's not limited to just teachers. We're seeing principals leave in droves. If you don't believe me, go look at the NEA, the National Education Association, look at their own data, where they said recently that over 52% of their members were considering leaving the profession. Holy cow. It's a 5-alarm dumpster fire. Now, that's a separate rant. I'm not going to get into that. But I get calls from teachers who are saying, Ken, I'm in that situation. I'm in the dumpster fire and I want to get out. And they say things like, I don't know what to go to. And this is a great example. And I'm excited about it because I remember many times, Alex, talking to teachers and going, hey, look, I would ask them, what do you hate about the job? What's driving you out of it? And it was always external circumstances. In other words, the remote teaching responsibilities, they now have to counsel students and they're not trained counselors. They're having to deal with mental health issues and they're not equipped and trained to be mental health counselors. I've talked to teachers about this directly. Not just on the air, but off the air and Zoom calls where I've gathered teachers. They are dealing with the fact that they can't teach the actual topics. They are teaching for a standardized test. And there's massive stress and they feel like their job is on the line if they don't have enough kids test at the levels that are required by politicians in the standardized test. And parents, those of you watching, those of you that may have been students, you know there's a real stressor here. So anyway, so we get through all that and I say to the teacher, if I removed all that crap, would you be calling me? They go, no, I just love teaching and instructing. So then I say, well, what are some other areas that you can still be that instructor or do the work of instructing. And here's an example. As a matter of fact, I just had an idea. I want Brittany to reach out to this guy. We can find this guy, and I want to have him on the show. I just want to do a brief interview with him to have him describe the position, because I saw this and I said, this is great. He's going to be a Walmart coach. So they've hired a teacher who's been trained in the art of instruction, and now he's going to be an internal coach for Walmart, coaching, instructing, guiding, training. Come on, folks. That's the same thing a teacher does, even in early education. Great fit for this guy. And so now he's going to make 65 to 70, and he's got a track to leadership, and it's Walmart. And by the way, Walmart's benefits, Alex, I mean, they got the benefits, baby. And that's really good money. And so here this guy moves from an environment that he feels limited in, and who knows what his other frustrations are. Let's try to get him on the show. I think it'd be great to hear his story. I'd love to interview him on that. All right, so that's a really fun story. Let's see if I want to do anything else here. Gabriel pointed out that being a teacher involves lessons planning, grading report cards, after school events. And he said, but look, that's taking up my nighttime. And people pushed him. It's like, well, you're going to give up your nights and weekends maybe by being a manager. And he said, look, I already didn't have much nights and weekends just because of the overwhelming amount of work that teachers have to deal with. According to Indeed, the average annual salary of a business coach at Walmart is $58,000. So there you go. Fantastic. All right, next story. Boy, am I bringing the goodness today. Here we go. Oh, I haven't done this for the crowd yet. They love the when I do that, so I got to do that. Okay, 7 companies that help employees pay off their student loans. What? And they're hiring. This is fascinating. Real quick, 44 million student loan borrowers. That's how many we have in the United States right now. 44 freaking million people have student loans. And they're wondering if Uncle Joe is going to save them. Spoiler alert, he's not. They've been talking and talking and talking. They're not going to do anything. There is a law called the CARES Act, which was signed into law in March 2020. It allows companies to make up to $5,250 in student loan payments for a worker each year. And the employees don't have to pay income tax on that. And the employer doesn't owe payroll tax. So that was a nice gesture. In 2020, the Society for Human Resource Management reported that only 8% of employers offered student loan repayment assistance, saying it was an uncommon benefit despite its popularity among younger employees. But an October 2021 report from the Employee Benefit Research Institute found that close to 50% of companies either already offer a student loan debt assistance program or plan to introduce one. So here are 7 companies that are leading the charge on this. Number 1, Google. Google said they would match up to $2,500 per year in student loan payments for any full-time employee with outstanding debt. Fidelity Investments. Fidelity began offering its student loan assistant benefit in 2016. It's available to employees working at least 20 hours per week, and they can receive up to $89 a month towards their loan, $7,500 total. Chegg. I don't even know what Chegg is. Sounds fun. They're doing it well. I'm not going to roll through all the details of each one of these. Estee Lauder offers $100 per month, up to $10,000 lifetime and paying it off. So that headline's a little tricky. So I'm not seeing companies just paying it all off, although some might, and it might be part of your promotional package if you negotiated for it. But Live Nation, they're in the big concert space, $100 a month, up to 60 months. PricewaterhouseCoopers, $1,200 per year. NVIDIA, $6,000 per year, up to $30,000 total. So there you go, folks. It is possible. And I always think it's worth bringing up. If a company wants you really bad, say, hey, this is what it's going to take, and I'll be there with a smile. If the thought of attending a networking event makes you break out in hives,
you're not alone. And I'll let you in on a secret. Networking in the traditional sense doesn't work, but genuine connection is all about relationships. That's why we created Networking the Right Way. This free guide is the low-pressure, high-impact way to overcome the awkwardness, build real relationships, and turn your connections into opportunities. To get the guide, go to kencoleman.com/network.
Welcome back to the Ken Coleman Show. Thrilled to have you with us. It's time for a little coaching session. Allison is going to join us in, honestly, one of my favorite cities in all of the United States, Charleston, South Carolina. Allison, you're on the Ken Coleman Show.
Thank you, Ken, for taking my call.
You bet. What's going on?
I took your quiz, and it said I was in the right role, but the wrong place.
Oh, okay. You took the Should I Quit My Job quiz.
Yes.
Okay, right role, wrong place.
Right.
Uh-oh.
And I have great benefits, great pay, and I'm 5 years from retirement.
Okay. Well, tell me, before you get to your question, I just want to know really quick, well, first of all, did you agree with the outcome of the Should I Quit My Job quiz? Did you feel like it was correct?
In some aspects, yes, because I do enjoy what I do.
Yeah, right. But that's the right role.
Right.
But they're your answers. And so if you agree with this assessment that you were in the right role but the wrong place, there's something about the environment or the culture that made you score that, correct?
Correct.
What is it?
I would agree with that. Being unappreciated and not being offered. I was offered something, ownership, and it was taken away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because of my age. And I'm not degreed. I'm a controller.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just lack of appreciation, but I work by myself. I love what I do.
Okay.
So
the environment, it's not the environment. You like working by yourself, and that's ideal. It's just you don't feel valued because they took away something from you. I mean, that's awful.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I get it. All right, so what's your question?
Well, should I just hang it out for the next 5 years, 6 years to retirement?
Well, let's look at this. All right? Okay. So let's just walk through this. You're on track to retire and be very comfortable, yes or no?
I wouldn't say I'll be comfortable, but I don't know about very comfortable.
Okay, sorry. All right, but comfortable. So the point.
Yeah.
So you're going to be comfortable. We're just walking through some scenarios here. Okay.
Okay.
So you're going to be comfortable. You really enjoy your work. You like the work, and you like the environment or the rhythm because you work by yourself. You're pretty much left alone. You do your thing, and you really enjoy it. So it's not something that drains you. It kind of lifts you, and it's good. True?
Right. Yes.
Okay. So the only negatives are that there was some ownership there, and that would have been a financial payout at some point for you or the benefit of your family or something like that, and they pulled that away from you. And not only did they pull it away from you, they cited your age, which is just so disrespectful and quite frankly just boneheaded. It's a caveman move, and that hurt your feelings. And and not only did it hurt your feelings, it then devalued you. After you got over the initial pain, it devalued you. And so you go, you know what? These people don't really value me or appreciate me. I don't feel wanted. So that's the negative. Now, we're not ready to retire. We got 5 more years, and that just gets us to comfortable, not very comfortable. So if we leave, we are leaving for one reason, maybe two. But the primary reason that you would leave is because you don't feel valued. The secondary reason that you would leave is to make more money over the next 5 years and potentially take you from comfortable to very comfortable. Is that fair analysis?
Yeah, but I'm already, I think, at the top of my pay grade.
Okay,
I think I could make more.
So now, see what we're doing? So we're going, is it worth it to go through the change and everything that I would go through to then land something that's largely the same amount of money? And I might be more valued. I might feel better about myself because of them. But is it worth it for that trade-off?
I would say no.
That's what I think. I think that your response should be, you know what? They're boneheads. They're boneheads. They may not be evil people, but they're boneheads. They may not have intentionally tried to, make you feel the way that you felt, but they made you feel the way you feel, and you got to get over it because they're not going to change.
Right.
And not only are they not going to change, they're not going to change their decision and give you back the ownership.
Right.
So it's like it's done. My grandmother used to say, "Don't cry over spilt milk," and I never knew what she meant until I became an adult. It's like, well, the milk is already spilled.
I have tenure. I've been there 16 years. So
yeah, I think you're fine. I think what you do is focus on finishing well for you. That's it. I'm going to finish well for me. I like the job. I need the job. I only got 5 years left. I got a really ideal environment. So what? I know I'm valuable. I don't care what they think or what they do.
Are you wondering if you should leave your current job or stay put? You're not alone. That's why we created the Should I Quit My Job quiz. In just 5 minutes or less, this quiz will help you determine if you're at the right company and if you're in the right role. If you need to make a move, you'll even get practical next steps to keep you moving forward. Listen, stuck is a choice, and life is too short not to do what you were created to do. To take the quiz, go to kencoleman.com/quiz.
All right, folks, very important information in my hands here. This is off the old bulletin board. For those of you who watch the show and know that I coach people up and you really enjoy diving in and listening to the coaching, or maybe you've called in and gotten coached before, you know that I have limited time to be able to coach you up. And that's why I've created Ramsey Career Coaching. These are professional coaches that have been certified. They have been doing this a long time. In fact, all of them longer than I technically been doing it. They're world-class, women and men. So you got a variety to choose from. What's the best fit for you? And I've talked with these folks. I've vetted them. And let me tell you something. For those of you who have the margin to do this, and it's not very expensive, kick the tires and just check me on that. For some of you, you don't have the margin at all. For those of you that have margin and you want to get a bigger shovel. Now, Dave Ramsey, if you're familiar with him, has been saying that for a long time. Bigger shovel means I can scoop more dirt out of the hole, get out of debt, right? That's the concept. Or for those of you who want to save, catch up on retirement, put the pool in, buy the car for the 16-year-old. I mean, fill in the blank. More money. Then I'm telling you, growth in your financial and professional life is directly related to how fast and how firmly you are growing. And a coach is the game changer. Any money invested in a coach, in my opinion, if you allow them to coach you, is always going to return multiple X. I don't know the number. That would be foolish for me to predict. But I'm telling you, you won't just get the money back. You'll get it back then some. That's how much I believe in coaching. Go to kencoleman.com/coaching today. We have limited spots in our first kind of trial run as we work through the best engagement for you, the customer. kencoleman.com/coaching, kencoleman.com/coaching. I'm telling you something. Breakthrough is on the other side of coaching. That's what I believe. For everybody in multiple areas of their life. Michaela, what is it? Charleston, South Carolina Day? This is very exciting. I got to tell you, this might be a sign. Stacy and I were looking at a little fall getaway. Got some Southwest miles that we got to use. George Camel told me about the hack. And I got some unused miles, got to use them. And we're thinking about Charleston, South Carolina. Now I feel like this is a sign. So I may patch Stacy in for this call and we'll get a full breakdown from Michaela. No, I kid. Michaela's waiting. Michaela, you're on the Ken Coleman Show.
Hi, Ken. Thank you so much for having me on.
You bet. What's going on?
So I am an actuary. I've been working for my company for 2.5 years now out of college. It's what I studied in college, what I've always had my sights set on. but I've been struggling with the actuarial exams that we have to pass.
Oh.
And because of that, my company is moving me to a non-actuarial role. And that has kind of prompted me to, and I've sort of been, I always wonder, like, is there a better career out there for me? But this is prompting that question even more.
Sure.
I know I can do the exams. I've been getting more and more test anxiety every time I haven't passed it and have retaken it.
Yeah.
But I guess my question is, what do you think? Do you have any advice? Should I look for another actuarial role somewhere else that will help support me through the exams?
Yeah, boy, this is really interesting. That's where I was headed. My question was and is, if we got over the anxiety issue and we got through it, because I believe you can with help, and you knew you weren't going to struggle with the exams, would you be on the phone with me right now? Talking about a different career option?
It ebbs and flows. About 3 months ago, which was around the time that I was taking the exam back in April.
Yeah, but see, that's tied to the anxiety of the exam. I want you to, and by the way, you already had an answer. I know this about people. I've done this now over 5,000 times. I want you to tell me what you actually were thinking that you didn't say. I'm going to ask the question one more time because it's a yes or no answer. If you knew that you would have no issues with the exam, no anxiety, and you were going to sail through it, would you be calling me right now asking for my help to come up with ideas for different work?
No.
Of course not. So, I mean, listen, sometimes I don't give people the answer that they want, but that's not my job. My job is to get you to answer it, and you just answered it. So now that tells you got to double down. Now, the challenge is, it seems like maybe the ship has sailed with your current company because you've expressed your anxiety issues. They've seen you not pass the test. And so they're going, well, we like Michaela enough to keep her around, but we're going to put her in another position. So it seems like that ship has sailed, or is it still in transition, or is it possible to go, hey, you know what? If I go get counseling on this, would you guys be willing to pay for some of it? If you're not, would you allow me to stay in the role if I go get professional help and I get victory over this anxiety, and I get some tools to be able to manage the anxiety and pass the test? Is it too late to do that?
No, they've told me that I can come back into the actuarial department in our company, but it will have to be after I pass an exam and there's a role that opens up.
Okay, so for right now, the answer is it's not an option. It's down the line.
Right.
So then what you asked me a moment ago, I think becomes your best option. Going to being an actuary somewhere else.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, the way people treat stuff like this in today's world is still truly up in the air. What I mean by that is if you go in the interview process and you say, look, I struggle with test taking, you're going to get one of two reactions. You're going to get a person who goes, okay, I get that. I love that. Well, we'll support you. We'll pay for, counseling or hey, we'll work with you on that. Don't feel any pressure. What seem to be the issues? It would be an open-minded response versus somebody going, oh, okay. And they kind of give you that weird smile and you know what they're thinking. Mm-hmm. They're thinking you're damaged goods.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree with me? That's it's going to go one of those two ways?
Yes.
So I think for you, I would be looking for another actuary job. And if it were me, this is me. So this is not a my way or the highway suggestion. If it were me, I would commit to counseling. Because I think this is going to help you in other areas. Listen, and I'm speaking as a person who always struggled with tests. And if I had it to do all over again, I probably would have asked my parents, okay, can I go see a counselor and try to get some tools, get to the source of why I am so nervous and why I don't test well? Now, I never had any anxiety symptoms that were outward, but I know that I was a ball of nerves inside, and that's anxiety on some level. And I didn't focus well. I just didn't do well on tests. I overanalyzed that. So I would sit with a counselor and go, I tend to overanalyze. How do I determine what I believe is the right answer versus talk myself out of what was the right answer? That would have been my issue. Do you understand, Michaela?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think for you, I believe in counseling, and I believe professionals, mental health professionals can give you tools that can allow you to overcome that, and you'll be a fine test taker.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's a function of you doing your job. You don't have any performance issues as an actual actuary, do you?
Nope.
It's only when you have to take the stupid test.
Yep.
Folks, this is why I hate unnecessary testing. You shouldn't even have to take the test. But let me tell you what this is. This is bureaucracy and politicians. They create unnecessary hoops that people have to jump through. Am I right, Michaela? Tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
You don't need to be tested. You just need an annual review and regular communication with your leader to make sure you're getting proper training and that you can actually do the job. True or false?
Yep.
Shame on your leaders. Shame on them. They ought to know that. They ought to know that you're a high performer. They've probably told you that. True?
Yep.
And yet they're moving you on because of the stupid test. They ought to go, you know what? We think the tests are stupid too because we know Michaela gets it done. So you know what they ought to do? You know what they ought to do? They ought to say to the government and whoever's, by the way, I'm running out of time. I'm not even going to ask you. Here's the deal, Michaela. I want you to look onward, look upward. That's where you're going. You do the work that you need to do to get victory over the anxiety around test taking. And I know you can, and I know you will, and there's no holding you back. This is the Ken Coleman Show. Press on.
Thanks for listening to the Ken Coleman Show. For more, you can find the show on demand wherever you listen to podcasts and watch the show on YouTube. You can also find Ken across all social media by following @Ken Coleman.